You don't like to bring your family to fights that you feel like are going to be a war. Do you feel like this is a fight that you'll bring your family to?
Nah.
Gervonta Davis and Lamont Roach have just made extreme promises to each other, as they just had another clash against each other. And if none of them willing to give in, we can all be set for an epic showdown in December. It's actually a unique matchup when you consider the fact that the two fighters are world champions, only that they fight in different weight classes. And as such, despite them being world champions, the fight isn't a unified world title fight. However, Lamont Roach, as a world champion, brings something very different that almost all of Gervonta Davis's recent opponents lack, and that's his size. Gervonta Davis is used to fighting bigger fighters, who for the sake of a title shot and a huge payday, carelessly he weight drained ahead of the fight and end up with lackluster performances as a result. Well, the same doesn't apply for Lamont Roach, who will instead be moving up in weight to the 135-pound lightweight division, where Gervonta Davis currently fights at.
Every time you see me, it's what up, shawty. It's this, and you know how you talk. Fuck is you talking about, mo? I'm really him. I bring any type of smoke to anything in my way. Fuck is you talking about? I am him and that.
Hence, Lamont Roach is expected to be in the ring on fight night, looking better than Frank Martin, Ryan Garcia, and many of Gervonta Davis's recent opponents, who looked like they were on a rehydration clause when they faced. But as much as this sounds good about Lamont Roach, there's so much downside to the whole fixture as well. Actually, the boxing world is usually on pins and needles while waiting to see what Gervonta Davis will do next. But this time around, fans were very let down when Tank was announced to be fighting against Lamont Roach in December. Roach is a fine fighter, but he isn't a high-profile name and doesn't have many big wins. People want Tank to fight the likes of Shakur Stevenson or Vasily Lomachenko or even Devin Haney. Of course, figuring out the details to make a mega fight like that happen is never easy.
Man, what did you say to yourself? You had to say something to yourself when you seen the card.
I mean, I probably thought about, the fact that...
But there's a growing sentiment among a lot of fans that Davis is kind of cruising at the moment, opting to not take too many risks. When called out on that by a user on social media, Davis had to stick up for himself. Davis was responding to a post that wondered aloud if 2025 would be the year where Davis finally fights credible names. The post also called Davis's agent to question when considering the opponents on his resume. A fan jumped to Tank's defense, exclaiming that his wins over Ryan Garcia, Frank Martin, Isaac Cruz, and Jose Pedraza were all legit, especially when taking into account the way in which he won those fights. Davis agreed with his fan, taking subtle shots at some fighters who have fought his scraps, like Rolly Romero, who fought Cruz after Tank beat him, and Devin Haney, who fought Garcia after Davis dominated him. Davis has fought plenty of great fighters, and he knows it.
From the amateurs, silver gloves, everything. They grew up actually together, Roach and him, back and forth battles and whatnot. It's going to be a pretty interesting fight, you know what I'm saying? Because Roach.
In a recent post on his Instagram account, Tank Davis published a photo of his knockout of Martin. In the image, he can be seen celebrating the victory with his rival lying on the canvas. The champion accompanied the image with the caption, "December Houston #the1, #long live baby Frank." The clear allusion to their next fight is the latest in the war of words that Davis and Roach have been maintaining since their fight was announced late in September.
Always, he come to fight, and I think it's a great fight. Everybody talking all that stuff about, why Roach? Because he signed and took the fight, you know what I'm saying? And it's good for...
Houston, we got a MF problem. Or, you must think I'm one of them regular NU fodder some, LOL cut it out measy, have been some of the posts that Roach has dedicated to Davis on X, formerly Twitter. In turn, Tank has responded by saying, "I advise you not to talk so much, it can be bad for you. You know that already though, yo." Despite the war of words, fans and analysts have questioned Davis's choice of opponent. In principle, despite being the World Boxing Association's super featherweight champion, Roach has not shown great punching power, something vital to face a knockout artist like Tank. Another point against him is that Roach will have to gain 9 pounds from his natural weight to face this fight.
For the community.
Now, do you feel like there's unfair criticism because of Lamont Roach not being as known of a fighter?
People going to do that. That's what fan does. You know?
The responses to his recent post demonstrate the disappointment of fans. Can you fight somebody that's going to actually give you some bump? And yet another cherry pick by Tank were some of the reactions to Davis's message. Another netizen summed up the feeling of media and fans by saying, "Y'all better stop falling for these weak tricks. Fighters moving up down from their natural fighting weight, but he doesn't want to move up or face any of the competition in his wheelhouse. Teo, Devin, Shakur, etc. Nobody wants this fight. The December fight is already set in stone. Now, it remains to be seen if Roach can prove all his detractors wrong or if Davis is really just picking easy opponents to avoid the heavy hitters in his division."
Hey, with Coach Kenny Ellis.
What's up?
How you doing, Coach?
I'm good, man. Taking it day by day.
Yes, sir. Boxing World got a big announcement.
What's even more interesting about their matchup is that Gervonta Davis is fighting a familiar foe next. The American boxer has decided to run it back against Lamont Roach, a fighter whom he crossed paths with twice in their amateur careers. It seems they have unfinished business, which the challenger might like to put an end to. Notably, Roach, 29, and Davis, 29, fought twice in their amateur careers at bigger stages. The first one came at the Regional Junior Olympics. The second one was at the National Championships.
This week, we're going to get the face of boxing, Gervonta Tank Davis versus Lamont Roach, December 14th in Houston, Texas. How you feeling about this fight?
Therefore, they have been familiar with each other and know every trick under each other's sleeve. However, according to Roach, at January 1st, 25, he should have been one up at least in their two clashes. The Reaper talked about his past fight with Davis at 30-0 when he appeared in an interview with Broadway Joel sometime back. When touching on his initial career in fighting, Tank, he declared, "I fought Gervonta Davis twice in the amateurs. I lost both times. The first one was a little fishy. No, they both are on YouTube. You can go watch them."
I feel good, man. You know, same old, same old.
Lamont and Tank have history. What can you tell us about their history?
Lamont Roach continued, "I fought Gervonta Davis twice in the amateurs. I lost both times, but the first one was a little robbery. They are on YouTube. You can go watch them. First one was in Baltimore, his hometown. Second was in the Nationals. He beat me in the championship, so he won gold." The host then chimed in and pointed out, "The first looks a little fishy than the second one?" To this, Roach nodded in affirmation and then detailed that the first one came in Baltimore, Davis's hometown, and after the USA Boxing went through the tape, they offered him a slot at Nationals. He continued, "The first one, I fought him, was in Baltimore in the Regional Junior Olympics. My dad sent the tape to USA Boxing."
And how that's going to play into the fight come fight next?
They got amateur history. They fought maybe 2 or 3 times.
But, as fate would have it, both Roach and Davis made it to the finals and had their second meeting, and the result remained the same. Roach added, "They were like, 'We are going to give you a grant to go to Nationals.' We both made it to Nationals. We made it to the championship. We fought for the championship. He beat me in the championship, so he won gold, and I won silver that year." The Washington native would finish his amateur career with an impressive record of 125, 15, and soon make waves in the professional boxing world too. Now he is set to meet Davis for the third time. But there has been growing criticism about the matchup. However, Calvin Ford defended his disciple's decision to fight Roach.
Tank being the winner, they sparred a few times. Tank got the best of the sparring. They just bigger and stronger now, you know? Older.
In a conversation with Fight Hype, Ford cited their previous meetings and battles. In addition, the Baltimore native coach admitted that Roach took the fight, which also pushed the negotiations, he declared. "They've known each other since the amateurs, the silver gloves, and everything. They grew up with each other. Everybody's talking about all that stuff." Why Roach? Because he took the fight, and it's good for the community.
Now, it's some word out there that Lamont says, you know, he got some film that don't make Tank look too good. What could that? How could that affect, you know, the outcome on December 14th?
Shit, man. Tank last 4 or 5 opponents all had film about how they beat him up.
According to Ford, it would be an interesting fight because Roach never shied from exchanges and would come to fight despite his reputation as a skilled fighter. The fans might have different thoughts about it, as this is the third time the World Boxing Association champion has picked a fight with someone from a lower division to defend his gold strap. It remains to be seen when Roach will utilize the experience of their past encounters.
That's a real good fight. I would love to see that. That's a scrappy. That'd be a scrappy fight.
How you compare?
Fans were not kind to the news as they were expecting something big from Tank. With his current form, there were so many opportunities for a potential dream fight that could have sold stadiums out. Without doubts, the selection of Lamont Roach, a boxer who doesn't even fight in the lightweight division, against Gervonta Davis proved to the entire boxing world, except a few Tank Davis's fans, that the Baltimore world champion was truly ducking better opponents. To that effect, Shakur Stevenson fired a subtle shot at both Gervonta Davis and his fans on X, formerly Twitter.
You feel that's gonna happen?
Yeah, I know it's gonna happen. I mean, I'm the best, he the best. So when you got two guys that's the best, how can you not fight? Only way you could not fight if...
For the longest time, a match between Shakur Stevenson and Gervonta Davis has always been a dream and a topic for the future, as even when the circumstances to make the fight happen presented itself, Gervonta Davis found reasons to bypass Shakur Stevenson. This year was the first time in a while where Gervonta Davis and Shakur Stevenson had matches that were a few weeks apart, meaning the two world champions had the best chance to fix a match later this year, as the preparation time would favor them both.
One of them guys ain't like that and somebody go off to lose or somebody take an L. But I think like with both of us, we both fighters that's really good fighters.
However, after Gervonta Davis's win over Frank Martin and Shakur Stevenson's win over Artem Harutyunyan, Tank Davis passed Shakur Stevenson and moved to Shakur's fellow top-ranked fighter, Vasily Lomachenko. Vasily Lomachenko declined and decided to take the entire year off. But rather than check out Shakur Stevenson, Gervonta Davis's team moved on and tried out Rayo Valenzuela, also in another weight class, who just earned himself a world title after defeating Isaac Cruz. And when Rayo Valenzuela declined, Gervonta Davis found a solution in Lamont Roach.
On that level.
From a boxing standpoint, what makes Tank Tank? We see the power, but it's got to be more than that.
Nah, he's strategic. He's setting guys up. He been boxing.
Sadly, all this while, Shakur Stevenson was waiting. And out of frustration, he went ahead to fix a world championship match against Joe Cordina in the same card of Bivol versus Beterbiev before eventually picking up an injury. A fan had tweeted on X, writing,
For his last fight with Frank Martin, you can see Frank Martin was more so an amateur. Like the experience he got is not on the level of like Tank. And
Lomachenko turned down Tank. Shakur went to Matchroom. Zapita is fighting Tevin Farmer. Dennis Bernchik is MIA. Who else was Tank supposed to fight in December? In response, Shakur Stevenson tweeted, "Y'all boys gotta get off y'all knees!" Even though he is from a lower weight class, he wants this fight and will do anything and everything to shock the world. Gervonta Davis once again decided to control his words and indicated that he would do the talking in the ring.
This between us both already, that we competed twice before in two close fights in the amateurs, and that, you know what I'm saying, like...
He quoted Reaper's tweet and just wrote, "Say nothing," expressing his superiority over the World Boxing Association's super featherweight champion. This online war has created some hype for the fight. The fight will take place at 135 pounds, and the World Boxing Association lightweight title will be on the line. Lamont Roach is a good fighter. He's technically sound, he's a championship level fighter. But as far as opponents for Gervonta Tank Davis in a pay-per-view event go, I'd prefer to see someone who has produced explosive performance at the highest level or at least is a polarizing personality. Davis is a bona fide pay-per-view star. Whether you agree that so many of his fights should have been on pay-per-view, and I disagreed with most of them, he's been established on pay-per-view for a while now. What's been lacking is the proper opposition necessary to charge those kinds of fees. Roach is a solid fighter, but he hasn't reached the pinnacle, and I also don't think he's the nature of character to compensate for that. He's had success at super featherweight, but it's taken him a while to do so. If he'd made numerous title defenses, a fight between him and Davis might make more sense, but he's made one. Against Feargal McCrory? We've seen Davis in this sort of fight before, such as against Hector Luis Garcia, who since being stopped by Davis has only lost a split decision to Roach. But then that's become the pay-per-view model, Once a fighter has that status, he stays on pay-per-view regardless of his opposition.
I wanted to get your thoughts. I appreciate you coming out. I wanted to get your thoughts, Danny, on the Tank Roach thing. So just your thoughts on the fight in general. What do you think about the fight?
Frank Martin, Davis's past opponent, is also a solid fighter, and unlike Roach, is established at lightweight. He'd been on course to fight Shakur Stevenson, and he'd produced some good performances that meant there was a curiosity surrounding him at the highest level. There's no question Davis is of the highest level, which is why the careful selection of his opposition is frustrating. It's also relevant that Roach, who is spoken about highly by those who know him, isn't the biggest of super featherweights, where he still appears capable of making defenses of his World Boxing Association title, and that Davis is such a powerful lightweight. If Davis is the biggest star in the division, and Stevenson is his biggest rival, then I feel similarly about this fight to how I did when Stevenson was matched with Joe Cordina.
Do you think that it was the right opponent for Tank?
I think it's a good, solid fight. You know, Lamont is a champion. He is coming up one weight class.
It feels more like the sort of fight that would be acceptable if Davis-Stevenson was made, and then Stevenson had to pull out with an injury and be replaced. If we could be confident Davis-Stevenson would come next, it would make far more sense, but it doesn't even seem close. Davis has to be considered a heavy favorite. With respect to Roach, if he won, it would be the upset of the year, and a matchup capable of producing the upset of the year shouldn't be on pay-per-view. But
Tank fought at 130 before too, so they both really 130 pounders fighting at 135. It's a good, solid fight.
A lightweight fight I'm much more positive about is William Zepeda Tevin Farmer. Farmer presents Zepeda with a different style as he continues to move up in level. Farmer's a former world champion and a very crafty southpaw, and by fighting him, Zepeda's strengthening his hopes of fighting Davis or Stevenson in the future. Southpaws are largely dominant at lightweight, which makes Farmer a very suitable opponent and one capable of showing us where Zepeda, who so far has been impressive, is at. Farmer may be past his best, but Zepeda isn't defending a world title, and there are fights on the undercard of that between Chris Billum-Smith and Gilberto Ramirez. I anticipate moments where Farmer's on top and testing Zepeda, even if I expect Zepeda to both learn from him and win.
Do you think it's pay-per-view worthy?
Yeah, I think it's pay-per-view worthy because Tank he's the ticket seller, he's the draw. So,
as a side note, when Stevenson Cordina was announced, we were also told we could expect Stevenson Zepeda and then Stevenson Davis in 2025. Stevenson being with Matchroom and DAZN, the broadcaster Zepeda's fighting on, albeit under Golden Boy Promotions, means a fight between them wouldn't come as a surprise. But I see very little reason to believe Stevenson Davis will happen after that. Matchroom have no say over Davis's movements. I'm happy to go on record as writing that I don't believe Stevenson Davis will happen in 2025, and while I expect Stevenson Zepeda to take place, it will be late in the year instead of early, as we've also been told. The outcry has been sparked by more than just the fact that nobody knows who Roach is, but boxing enthusiasts who are sure Roach is incapable. Although this is a difficult fight for Roach, 29, it is an opportunity for him to elevate his career as he will face one of boxing's biggest names. He is a skilled and crafty fighter with a strong chin, and if he can capitalize on Davis's tendency to start slow, there is a slim chance he could make the fight competitive and secure an early victory.
I see a nice competitive fight.
Nice competitive fight?
Yeah. He's not going to fight like Martin, you know. He got a more come forward style.
While Davis remains a massive draw in boxing, the fight has left some fans underwhelmed, hoping for a more marquee matchup against top contenders in his weight class. Within a week of their fight announcement, he sent shots on X, formerly Twitter, and has even graced a live interview where he had so much to say about Tank.
135, so I don't blame him for fighting that way. But he's not a big 35. I don't see why people like, oh, you brought up a smaller guy, woo-doo-woo, blah, blah, blah. I mean, like...
Although many critics have pointed out the weight difference between the two, Roach does not believe it will affect the outcome of the fight. This bout will be for Davis's World Boxing Association title in a pay-per-view event. What are your thoughts and predictions on the Gervonta Davis versus Lamont Roach fight? Let's know them in the comments section. And that's all for now. For the very best updates on news, moments, events, and actions in the world of boxing, stay connected with us by subscribing to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to turn on notifications to get notified when we drop quality contents like this. Until next time, peace out.